We recognise that all organisations begin their adoption or transformation from different starting points. So with this guide, we're keeping it straightforward. We're assuming that you have not set up your Microsoft 365 Business Premium environment or added any users yet. If you have, that's no problem. You can use our guide to check you did everything right. When you signed up to Microsoft 365 Business Premium, you had to choose an initial tenant name, which goes before the .onmicrosoft.com bit that you would have set up. This is your user principal name, but in future we'll call it UPN. A UPN looks like an email address, and often it is an email address, but it doesn't have to be. Lewis will talk more about that later. Now, whilst I'm sure you chose a great tenant name, you probably have an actual domain or website address that you want to use to match your, business. For example, my demo user here, Dakota Sanchez, is dakota.sanchez@thenwindtraders.onmicrosoft.com. It's quite a mouthful, and it doesn't really match our company brand. Our domain is the-northwind.org. So I'm going to change our tenant custom domain to that before I add the rest of my users. We'll head to the Microsoft 365 Admin Center and sign in. And from there, the Business Advisor screen opens. Now you can either spend some time here, or you could hit skip for now. By default, the menu on the left is simplified and shows only a few things that we might use day to day. We'll hit show all at the bottom left, and that will show the whole list of options. We'll go to Setup, and from here, if we scroll down a little bit, we have a list of recommended tasks. As you can see, the third one on my list is to get your custom domain set up. I'm going to click that, and we'll then click Get Started. So in the Add a Domain section, we're going to tap in the name of the domain that we've got. In my case, it's the-northwind.org. What happens now depends on who you've registered your domain with. If it's one of the domain registrars that supports Domain Connect, then you just need to sign in and allow Microsoft to add the required records to prove you own it. If it doesn't support Domain Connect, then you'll see this page, because mine doesn't support Domain Connect. And this is where we're going to choose how to prove that you, in this case me, own the domain that we've typed. We can do this by adding a TXT record into the domain name system, or DNS. This is a very simple and safe task, and adding a TXT record just proves that you're the one in control of this domain. You'll just add the TXT record that the Microsoft website specifies. If for some reason you can't do a TXT record, you can do an MX record. And if you can do neither of those, then you can simply add a specific text file to the website for Microsoft to look for. I'm going to use the TXT method, so we'll go to My Domain Registrar and set that up now. As it's very unlikely that you're using the same provider as me, be sure to follow the guidance from your provider. For mine, I'm going to choose Add a TXT record to the domain's DNS records and choose Continue. And in the Add a Record to Verify Ownership section, you can see that it's specified my domain hosting provider as Other because it hasn't been able to figure out what domain hosting provider I've got based on the fact that it doesn't support Domain Connect. The information we've got to add, though, is TXT name, the TXT value, and the TTL. So if we look at the TXT name, that's just an @ symbol. So I'm going to grab this symbol and take that over to the domain, and in the record type we're going to choose TXT. Now I don't have the need to add an @ symbol in this specific provider, so I'll go back. It says skip if not supported by the provider, so I don't need to do that. That's great. I have the TXT value, which is MS. I'll grab that and put that in there. And then finally, we have a TTL, a time to live. This is in seconds, 3,600. So let's see what we need here. And I don't have a TTL requirement on this specific DNS. Fantastic. So all I need to do is scroll down. And if we look for TTL in my settings pane here, you can see that the TTL value is optional here, but 3,600 seconds is 60 minutes. So I'm going to go with 1 hour there. And then we'll just choose Save Settings. From here, we can go back to the Microsoft website, And it can take anywhere from a minute to 4 days for a change like this to process. For me, it usually only takes a few minutes, but it really could take longer for different registrars. To check if it's done, we'll just select verify, and it'll let us know. So we've now verified our domain. It knows that we own our domain. Next, we want to connect our services. So things like email and instant messaging, Teams, and all that kind of stuff rely on certain DNS records that use the domain. So we need to add some of those. And if I click this, you can see the other options are to set up online services for me. And this would mean that you would need to change your DNS provider, the actual server that hosts the named services, to Microsoft. That might be something you want to do. In my case, I want to have full control of that name server within my existing domain registrar, so I'm going to stick with that. So it says add your own DNS records. That's what we'll do. We'll choose continue. And here are just a few more of those records that we need to add to allow email to work and allow instant messaging to work. So we have Exchange and Exchange Online Protection with an MX record, a CNAME record, and TXT record. Let's do that. So we have this record here. I'm going to copy the value, and this is an MX record. So we'll go to the domain, choose MX, and we have the host, which is this one here, and the priority we got, which is 0. So we'll put the priority in as 0. Next, we have the CNAME record. So the host name is ultradiscover, and the point to address is ultradiscover.outlook.com. Let's grab that one. Now, actually, because it's ultradiscover dot as the host name, we're going to type ultradiscover in the subdomain, and the record type is going to be a CNAME, and the host is ultradiscover.outlook.com. Next, we have the TXT record finally. So this is simply an @ and so we don't need that. We'll grab this value here and add another record up here, TXT, and add that one in just there. Great. Scroll down, choose Save Settings. Go back to Setup, see what other options we have. We have this Advanced Options section down here. We're going to also want to allow Intune for our later configurations that we do. You can see I need to add 2 CNAME records here. We have Enterprise Registration and Enterprise Enrollment. So I'll grab this here, add in Enterprise Registration, just here, and add another of Enterprise Enrollment. Grab that one from here. This is Enterprise Enrollment, and it is -S in there, so be careful about that when you grab that. Okay. Fantastic. So next we'll just check there's nothing else we need to add. DKIM we need to add because that helps stop attackers from sending emails that look like they come from your domain, and we're going to talk about that in a later video. But for now, I'll add in the DKIM required. So we have the host name just here. I'll grab that. And I'll copy the point to value, change that to CNAME, add that there, and then finally one more. Grab the hostname value here, and a CNAME value. Grab that, put that here. Okay, that is everything we've been asked to do. So we'll choose Save Settings, back over to Microsoft 365, and now we can choose Continue. Now this will take a few seconds while it checks DNS that the actual settings we've set are correct and valid, and then it'll let us move forward. And after a few moments, it says domain setup is complete. The-northwind.org is all set up, and you can now view and manage it from your domains list. Fantastic. Now that we've verified our domain, we can get started adding that domain to our existing users. And we can also import our new users. Our initial few users were created manually through the portal. It's a good idea to add your initial administrators and security team this way. Right now, they'll have their login name, UPN, set as something like firstname.lastname@something.onmicrosoft.com. In fact, it's recommended that people who have responsibility for doing highly privileged administrative tasks like global administrators or Intune administrators have a dedicated account for those tasks. So my example user here, Dakota Sanchez, will actually need 2 accounts, one for administration and one for their day-to-day stuff like email and web browsing. This is because it's a good idea to be extra secure for those highly privileged accounts, such as strong multi-factor authentication at every login and stronger login requirements. The good thing is that if we secure that account more, we can be more relaxed with Dakota's regular account. The privileged account should still be an individual account per user. So I'm going to create a new user for Dakota, which they'll use for admin tasks. Let's head over to the portal. We'll open this menu bar on the left-hand side and choose Users, Active Users, and choose Add a User. You'll notice I already have a user called Dakota Sanchez here with that dakota.sanchez@thenorthwindtraders.onmicrosoft.com UPN. This is going to be their standard user that we'll use for them in the future. It's actually the one I'm logged into right now, but we're going to create that additional admin account for them. So we'll choose Add User. It's going to be Dakota Sanchez. And then we're going to do -admin, so we know that it's their privileged account. And we're going to do Dakota-admin@thenorthwind.org. We can automatically create a password and also require this user to change the password on their first sign-in. We'll choose Next. And we need to add some licenses. We also need to change the location that the licenses are going to be used in. In my case, we are looking at using the United Kingdom, and the product licenses we're going to use are this Microsoft 365 Business Premium. We'll choose that, and the applications you can see that this user has access to are all the standard apps that you get with this Business Premium license. As I mentioned, it's a very feature-rich license that is used for organizations of 300 users or fewer. We'll choose Next. And then we have the administrative access that we need to give. So we've got a role right now, and this is going to be the admin account. So we need to go into Admin Center Access and choose Global Administrator, and then choose Next. Finally, we can choose Finish Adding, and we can print those account details and get them over to Dakota, in this case, me. So we'll choose Close, and that's Dakota added here. You can see the admin account now, and also Dakota Sanchez normal account. Now that we have an account dedicated for administrative tasks set up for Dakota, we really should switch over to that account to continue our configuration. I'll do that now. I'm just going to sign out of this account. And I'll sign in with the new admin account. We'll need to change the password on sign-in as we specified when we created the user. We'll do that and choose sign-in. And now we're asked to configure multi-factor authentication for this user. Now, as this user is the admin account that I'm going to be using day to day for my admin tasks, I will scan the QR code. So I'll just choose Next. And in my Authenticator app, choose Scan QR Code. And I'll just follow the instructions to configure this now. Now that we're logged in with our privileged account, I'll go ahead and remove that privileged role from the regular user for Dakota and change the login name to the correct domain of the Northwind. So, over to the admin portal, I'll choose Dakota Sanchez. We're going to manage the username and email, and I want to edit the primary email address and change that domain to the shorter the-Northwind and also their username. We'll choose Save Changes. And that's that bit done. We'll head back. I also need to change the role. Right now they have a Global Administrator role. I want to change that from Global Admin to User with no Admin Center access. We'll choose Save Changes. And then close this down. Okay, so Dakota now has 2 users. One is a privileged account for their administrative tasks, and another is a standard user that they use day to day. Our next step is to create our users either one by one or to import them in bulk. I've already gone through adding a user individually just there, so I'll go through the process of adding multiple users now. We'll head over to Users, Active Users, and at the top here you can see we have Add Multiple Users. We'll click that, and you'll see that actually we have this form we could fill out to add in each of these users. We could add a first name, last name, username, and domain, and that would be great if you have a few users that you want to add. You might find it quicker, and I'm certainly going to find it quicker, to add a CSV instead. If you choose, I'd like to upload a CSV with user information, you can download a blank CSV with the required headers, or even a CSV that includes example user info. I'm going to grab the CSV that I've already prepared, and just choose Upload. And we have this template here, and I'll open that. It validates that the format is correct. Then we can choose Next. And it says that we're adding 19 users, and we need to choose the location and the product licenses for those. So I'm going to choose United Kingdom. And the licenses we're using are the Microsoft 365 Business Premium. Choose that, and then choose Next. Finally, all we need to do is choose Add Users, and it automates that for us. Now each of these users are going to be generated a temporary password that we'll be able to use to let them log in for the first time. Simply a case of choosing Download User Details, and we have that CSV file that we can use to get those credentials to those users. As you can see, we're focusing on Microsoft 365 Business Premium for our example. It's packed with security and productivity features for organizations with fewer than 300 users. So we've got our admin account set up, and we've also added users and licenses. But now we actually need to add a couple more users. I kept this bit separate because I wanted to explain it a little bit more. Microsoft recommends that you have 2 cloud-only emergency access accounts. These are sometimes referred to as break the glass or break glass accounts because you should only use them in an absolute emergency. These accounts should have the highest level of privilege and be excluded from some of the security policies that we're going to set up in a moment. I'll set the users up now, and we'll make sure that they're excluded later. As part of the Secure Future initiative from Microsoft, Microsoft is enforcing multi-factor authentication as a built-in part of the service. So even though we exclude our emergency accounts from our policies that we will set up, we still need to have strong second factors in place for each of these emergency access accounts. From the Entra Admin Center, we're going to go to New User, to create New User, and in the user principal name, the login name that they're going to have, it's going to be john.williams-admin, and in the UPN suffix, this bit after the @ symbol, we're going to choose the long UPN suffix that Microsoft provided. This is a great one to have for break glass accounts because it doesn't rely on that custom domain still existing in the event of some kind of disaster. So next we're going to choose a display name. In this case it's going to be John Williams Admin. And in the password we'll leave it as auto-generated, but I'm going to copy that password because in a little while I'm going to need to log in as that user once we finish creating it. So we'll choose Properties, and you could fill in the details here if you have some fake details you want to add, and then we can go to Assignments and choose Role. And in Role, we're going to want to give it the Global Administrator. That's that one there. We'll choose Select and Review and Create. Now, when we choose Create, this user will be created, and it has a very high privilege within our environment. It has the highest level of privilege within our environment. We need to change the password so that the user has a strong password rather than the 6 or 7 digits that they got just then. So we'll choose the 3 dots up here and choose New in Private Window. And then we're going to type aka.ms/MFA setup. And here we get to log in. So it's going to be john.williams-admin at the nwintraders.microsoft.com. Bit of a mouthful to read, bit of a mouthful to type, not a mouthful, bit of a handful to type, but it shouldn't be used very often at all. That's the point of break glass accounts. They should be inconvenient to use. I'm going to enter that password that I copied to the clipboard just then. We're going to choose Sign In, I'm going to have to update this password, so I'll put that current password in there, and now I want to get a new password, a secure password for my user, so I'm just going to quickly generate one for that. I've just created a 30-character password using my password generator, and now I need to make sure I share this with at least one other admin so that they can use this account if I'm not available. We're going to make sure in the future that we audit this account anyway, so that means we monitor when it's being used, because we don't want that other admin to just use this account as their daily account. So we're going to choose sign in, and now we've set a strong password for the account. We still do need to set up multi-factor authentication. I'm going to choose no on this stay signed in page, but it will ask me to set up multi-factor authentication in order to move forward. It says more information required in order to keep your account secure. I'm just going to choose yes next on this, and then I'll need to set up Microsoft Authenticator for this account. I'll just quickly run through this process now. It's a fairly familiar process for anyone who has had a Microsoft account in the past. Just need to quickly go through it, and when I'm done, we'll have multi-factor authentication set up for this break glass account as well. Alright, that's all done. So now we have one multi-factor authentication method set up for our break glass account. It's a good idea to also get one of your other admins who has the password to set up multi-factor authentication using their Authenticator app as well. Now, bear in mind I've got two Global Administrator break glass accounts set up in my environment. This is one of them, and I've set it up with Microsoft Authenticator as the second factor. For the other ones, you'd probably set up something like a FIDO2 key in order to have a separate second factor that you can use in case multi-factor authentication via the Authenticator app is broken that particular day. So once that's configured, simply a case of choosing sign out and closing down this in private browser to get back to our main browser.